All right, well, let's get started. And I've said that already, and now I see more people are joining us. Wonderful. So welcome to our first ever Meet NAFIS webinar. And we are hoping that this event today will help you to learn about NAFIS and also to help you make the most of your NAFIS membership. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm Hillary Goldman. I'm the Executive Director of NAFIS, and I'm joined by the rest of the NAFIS staff. Each of our staff members will introduce themselves later and participate in the webinar presentation and content. As I mentioned earlier, we know that a number of school districts have been members of NAFIS for many years. However, the individuals connected to the school districts may be relatively new. So again, please let us know a little bit more about you in the chat so we can maybe tailor our remarks to you as well. Especially during this pandemic year when we haven't had a chance to meet in person, we thought it would be important for us to connect via the webinar, as well as making sure you learn a little bit more about the resources that NAFIS has and how we work for you on impact aid issues on a daily basis. So let me get started here. So today we wanted to introduce you to NAFIS, talk about our resources, provide a legislative update, as well as talk about our new NAFIS portal and provide an update on the conference for this fall. Of course, we're going to have plenty of time for questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I also think we're a small group today. So if you'd like to raise your hand or unmute yourself, please feel free to do that as well. So let's introduce you to NAFIS. NAFIS was founded in 1973, and we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We have a full-time staff, just steps from the nation's capital, advocating on behalf of impact aid on a daily basis. Our mission is to educate Congress and the administration on impact aid. We provide technical assistance to school districts and to Congress. So one of the kinds of technical assistance we can provide you is if you need some help estimating your impact aid payment for the upcoming year, we're happy to help with that. We also coordinate the work of the impact aid coalitions that are in both the House and the Senate. And we serve as an umbrella organization to 4 subgroups, which we'll talk about shortly. NAFIS Family. The term NAFIS Family is something that we use regularly, and we very much believe in the NAFIS family, meaning unity, that we all are speaking with one voice. The concept of NAFIS Family starts from the top with our NAFIS Board of Directors. The Board of Directors represents all the different types of impaction of the community, and they very much provide directive to me as Executive Director that unity and strength of our voices is a top priority as we continue our advocacy work. We have 4 subgroups representing the different types of impaction. The Federal Lands Impacted Schools Association, which represents the federal properties part of the program. Military Impacted Schools Association, which represents some military impacted school districts. National Indian Impacted Schools Association, which represents school districts on Indian lands, and the mid to low lot schools. If you are a member of NAFIS, but not a member of any of these subgroups, we encourage you to identify with the subgroup for which your impaction aligns, and that we encourage you to join the subgroups as well. Each of these subgroups has a leader, whether an executive director or president, and we will be fortunate to hear from them today. We have a short video where they will be introducing themselves.
Hello, my name is Tom Schneider. I am the Executive Director of the Federal Lands Impacted Schools Association, FLISA, and we represent 250 school districts across the country. These school districts all have federal installations or federal lands inside of their public school boundaries. This land used to produce property tax dollars for the public schools, but now because of the federal installation or federal presence, those property tax dollars are not provided. And so the federal government through impact aid makes up those lost dollars. The dollars that we collect from impact aid help provide our students with all of the things they need in order to be successful and compete with neighboring districts that don't have a federal installation. We're proud to work with our brothers and sisters in NAFIS and all the subgroups as we pursue increased impact aid funding, support for our infrastructure projects, and advance together towards full funding for impact aid.
Bonjour, Niji. Greetings, my friends. My name is Brent Gish. I serve as Executive Director of the National Indian Impacted Schools Association, NISA. The NISA organization is a strong partner of NAFIS. NISA works hand in hand with NAFIS to successfully attain the annual and long-term goals of full funding of the Impact Aid program, annual increases in basic support, and support for schools, construction, and infrastructure. The over 600 school districts serving students residing on Indian Treaty, Trust, or Alaskan Land Settlement Act lands have unique needs that NISA advocates for and are elements in the strategic plan and adopted values. NISA works to establish relationship with organizations with common goals, believing we are stronger when working collaboratively. NIEA, NACI, and recently NISA worked with the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, giving testimony and outlining the needs of our districts. NISA is very active in seeking annual increases in impact aid basic support for our districts, some with as little as no tax levy revenues, depending on impact aid for 50% or greater of their school operation funds. NISA drafted its own infrastructure bill requesting $1 billion over 4 years that includes teacher housing funding. Finally, NISA needs your district to become a member, as does NAFIS. We firmly believe that there is strength in numbers. Together, great things can be accomplished.
Hi, my name is Kyle Fairburn. I'm the Executive Director of the Military Impacted Schools Association. Military Impacted Schools Association is a group of 60 school districts from across the country. We represent school districts that have large concentrations of military-connected children. Military Impacted Schools Association, otherwise known as MISA, has been around since 1986. We continue to fight for the well-being of the military child and the education that they receive in public schools. MISA has a couple of issues that we work on throughout most years. One is the Department of Education Impact Aid program and making sure that funding supports the schools that educate our military children. We also receive a small pot of money from the Department of Defense, which we work on to get schools a little additional funding and also some high-need special education money. We also work with the Department of Defense on some construction funding. That money has been coming to the school districts for the last 10 or 12 years. These are the three major issues that the Military Impacted Schools Association focuses on each year. That is what we serve, and that is who we serve within the military child and the schools that represent them.
Hello, my name is Jim Saruta. I'm the Superintendent of Schools at the Northern Burlington County Regional School District in New Jersey. And we proudly serve the active military on the Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst. I'm also the current president of the Mid to Low Lot subgroup of NAFIS, and this subgroup represents military installations, Indian lands, and federal trust lands. The subgroup is comprised of school districts that are approximately 1 to 50% federally connected. So we represent close to 1,200 school districts in the country. That's approximately 75% of the districts that receive federal impact aid. So I am proud to say that the Mid to Low Lot subgroup serves approximately 725,000 students across the country. What the Mid to Low Lot subgroup advocates for primarily is more opportunities for our students, and the way that we generate more opportunities for our students is to generate more impact aid revenue. The way that we'll get more impact aid revenue is by increasing the basic support payments to move those payments over the 100% lot payment, and then the money will be coming more towards the impact aid Mid to Low Lot subgroup community. So excited about it, and we're pleased to represent these students and to be a member of NAFIS. Thank you very much.
Thank you to those subgroup leaders for their time to film their individual videos. The NAFIS family also includes a number of state organizations. So if you're located in any of these states, Arizona, California, South Dakota, Montana, Texas, Oklahoma, Washington, we encourage you to affiliate with the state organizations as well. And finally, the NAFIS family would not be complete without the NAFIS staff. We are a small but mighty staff. As I said, it's just steps away from the nation's capital. And we're here to serve you and support your efforts in impact aid. So NAFIS is your voice on Capitol Hill. We're leading efforts to increase funding for impact aid, protect the program. We are recognized by policymakers as the authority on impact aid. We're your source for impact aid information, and we're also your professional network. And one of those ways of building your professional network is at the NAFIS conferences. The next one will be in September, and we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation. And most importantly, NAFIS is your partner. We're here to help you. Please reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out to us if there's anything we can do to support your impact aid work. So let me ask Ann O'Brien, NAFIS Director of Communications, to share with you information about NAFIS resources.
Thank you, Hillary, and welcome everybody. As Hillary mentioned, I'm Ann O'Brien, the Director of Communications here at NAFIS, and I'm going to talk about the resources that we have available to help both yourself learn more about impact aid and help you educate your community and policymakers on it. If you ever have a question about impact aid, we encourage you to check out the website, www.nafisdc.org, and you'll be able to access all of the resources I talk about today there as well. First off, I wanted to share, if you haven't already seen it, a bit of our new explainer video on impact aid. This video offers a general overview of the program. It may be something you can share with new school board members, or you can use it in educator development or at a launch event for parent-pupil survey collection. So really, we intend this to be used in a variety of ways, and hopefully the technology will cooperate so you can see a few minutes.
More than 1,000 school districts receive federal impact aid funding. Together, these school districts educate more than 10 million students each year. So what is impact aid? The federal government is exempt from paying taxes on the land it owns. There are many different kinds of federal property, including military installations, Indian trusts, treaty and Alaska Native Claims settlement lands, federal low-rent housing, national parks, and more. Therefore, communities across the United States and its territories lose a significant amount of local revenue due to the presence of federal land. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of that. If you're interested, it's on our website and on our YouTube channel. And in addition to that video, some of the other materials that we have available are these here on the screen. The one on the left is a one-page overview of impact aid. It offers a look at the national level of the program, and it's particularly helpful if, again, there's someone you're interacting with that's not familiar with impact aid, particularly congressional staff or other policymakers. The middle one is a booklet called The Basics of Impact Aid, and that is, it goes a little bit more in depth. It's about 40 pages long, and it covers every section of the impact aid program. This is a great resource for those who would benefit from a little more information. For example, if you had a new staff person taking over the impact aid application or a new district leadership that wasn't familiar with the program. And then the one on the right is an FAQ on the parent-pupil survey, which is designed for parents, guardians, and other caretakers. It includes information on what the program is and how impact aid funds are used, as well as addressing questions about the information that parents must provide and why they have to do it every year. So we developed this resource to share with parents as you're distributing the parent-pupil survey, or you can use it as a model in developing your own resources for families. I also want to call your attention to our impact aid payments overviews. This is a
three-part document. It's got an infographic offering a national snapshot of the Impact Aid program. And then there are also lists of Impact Aid recipient school districts organized by state and congressional district that are eligible for payments under both the Section 7002 federal property and the 7003 basic support programs. These documents include both the actual Impact Aid payment that the school district receives and the maximum payment it would receive were the Impact Aid program fully funded. Each also includes supporting information from the U.S. Department of Education. And this information is really critically important in our advocacy work, and we encourage you to use this information in your own advocacy work. We are currently still featuring the FY 2019 information. We expect to release our FY 20 Impact Aid payments overviews later this year. But here's an example of the federal property, the 7002 document. You'll see the school district name, congressional district, and information on federal acreage. The column second from the right is that FY19 actual payment, and the far right is the school district's full funding payment. In the red box below, you'll see some of this information at the state level. The 7003 looks similar. Again, you'll see the school district name and congressional district, as well as information on the federally connected students that the district serves. In this one, the fourth column is that actual payment, with the fifth column, the payment the school district received if the program were fully funded. As with the 7002 overview, you can see the state level information in the red box at the bottom. So as is evident from looking at these overviews, there's a big discrepancy between what a lot of school districts are receiving and what they should be receiving were Impact Aid fully funded. And these are the types of facts that it's important to share when asking your congressional representatives to increase funding, while also sharing the types of opportunities your school district could provide with those additional funds. So I know I've been talking about a lot of resources already, but I also want to make sure that you know that NAFIS is constantly putting out communications to help make sure you're up to the minute on Impact Aid and NAFIS activities. Every Friday, we send out NAFIS News, a weekly newsletter. Quarterly, we also provide Impact, which is a longer form publication sent as a PDF directly to your inbox. And then finally, as needed, we send out information and action alerts, again, to keep you up to date on Impact Aid, and so you're aware when your advocacy to your policymakers is most needed. You should be receiving all of these publications as a NAFIS member benefit. If you are not, please contact info@nafisdc.org, and we will make sure your membership is up to date and that you're on our email distribution list. So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn to Nicole now for Advocacy Tools.
Thanks, Anne. Hi, everyone. As Anne said, I am Nicole Jarvis, the Assistant of Policy and Advocacy for NAFIS, and I will just briefly finish up our conversation on resources here with some very important offerings we have for advocacy. So this here is our virtual advocacy toolkit. It's the main hub for all Impact Aid advocacy related resources. You can find various infographics and worksheets all here on our website, including everything from key facts about Impact Aid, Federal Policy 101 recording of a session. The Impact Aid payment overviews can be accessed through here. There's a guide for arranging Hill meetings. There's sample letters to the editor and social media shareable graphics and sample tweets. There's a worksheet for an elevator pitch, and there's just so many more. So if you haven't yet checked this out, this is a great place to access all of these advocacy tools. So I'll just briefly highlight a few of these here. In the center, you'll see there's our elevator pitch. You can easily use this worksheet to come up with the message you want to share with your elected officials in just 4 easy steps. On the left, you'll see there is a guide to effectively hosting a virtual meeting. These tips can be used for virtual meetings and in-person meetings. This is our really go-to guide that we share. And on the right, you'll see there are tips for social media advocacy, which we highly encourage as an important facet to advocacy. There's everything from how to use different social media sites to just small tips to help you here and there. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Leslie, who can share some information legislative updates.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm Leslie Finnan. I'm the Director of Policy and Advocacy here at NAFIS. All right, and I am here to do a quick legislative update. I don't know how much you guys are following, but seems like every day it's a new episode of our favorite reality TV show known as Congress. So the information I'm giving you is accurate as of last I saw. We're going to talk about just the makeup of the current Congress, the appropriations process, infrastructure, our advancing towards full funding bill, and then I'll turn it back to Nicole to talk about broadband connectivity. So we're currently in the 117th Congress that began January 2021 and will go until January 2023 after the next election. As you probably know, Democrats currently control the White House, the House of Representatives, and technically the Senate. They are tied at 50-50, but with Vice President Harris as the tiebreaker, it swings towards the Democrats. The Democrats back in March, they passed their huge bill called the American Rescue Plan. It was, I believe, $3 trillion. It included $126 billion for K-12 schools. So I'm sure all of you working in districts have received a pretty big chunk of change from this or are currently working on what you're going to do with this money. Right now, the 117th Congress is focused on infrastructure, which we'll talk about. They're talking about voting rights or the voting integrity bills. What they're mostly talking about, though, is the filibuster and partisanship and the strength of both or what will happen with both of those. So while this, all the infrastructure and the big, huge relief bills and the partisan talks continue, Congress is still working on the appropriations process. So they're working on funding for the federal government. The federal government is currently funded through September 30th. The federal fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th. So don't worry, we are not in any dire straits quite yet. Your funding is currently safe until September 30th. It is very likely that Congress will pass what's called a continuing resolution rather than finish its appropriations process by then. Everything got started very late this year. It always gets started very late in the first year of a new president's administration, but this year things were especially delayed. So I will go ahead and say, I do not think there's any way that they could possibly finish all of the appropriations bills by September 30th, but I do not think that they will shut the government down. So I think it's pretty clear that Congress will do what's called a continuing resolution, which is really just kicking the can down the road and funding everything at current levels, possibly until December. They like to push it to December to give themselves a little pressure so they can go home for Christmas. NAFIS has sent a request to the Hill to members of the appropriations committees asking for a $102 million increase for fiscal year 22, which is next year. We asked for a $100 million increase to basic support and a $2 million increase to federal property. We have gotten increases the last, several of the last years. And so we think that our requests have been well calibrated and well received, and we hope to receive a decent increase this year as well. We are very excited that President Biden, he released his fiscal year 22 budget request recently, and he asked for a $40 million increase to basic support and level funding for the rest of the program. While you're looking at this and you're saying you're asking for 102 and you got 40 and you're happy about this, we are thrilled because this is the best presidential budget request we have gotten in decades as impact aid. It's the first in almost 10 years to not eliminate the federal property part of the program, which we are obviously very excited that we don't have to fight against that, but also the first to even put any increase into the basic support part of the program. So we are very pleased that the Biden administration sees impact aid as a priority and sees this funding as an important important thing to give us increases. So we are very pleased going into a democratically controlled Congress that we have the request from the democratically controlled White House for an increase. As I said, the big conversation right now is around infrastructure. What is happening, we are not completely sure. There seem to be two tracks right now. It's my third bullet point down, I'll start there now, but there's the bipartisan bill. There's a group of 21 senators, pretty evenly split between Democrats and Republicans, moderates on both sides of the aisle, who are working on an infrastructure package. From what I've heard, it sounds like they have the bill, they have their priorities, they have what they want to fund, they just don't know how to pay for it. They don't agree on whether they should raise taxes on corporations or the gas tax or whatever else what other magic money they can find. So that seems to be the real sticking point. We are very concerned because from everything I've seen, this bipartisan compromise bill does not include any money for school infrastructure, which has been a huge priority for the entire education community throughout DC, but especially for the impact aid community. If the bipartisan bill does not work, or actually I've also heard if the bipartisan bill does work, it's likely that there will be what's called a reconciliation, which is a fancy budget tool in the Senate that lets them avoid the 60-vote filibuster and pass the bill on a partisan line. That is how they passed the American Rescue Plan back in March, and that is pretty much how the Democrats plan to pass any major spending legislation, because they don't think that they can get the 10 Republicans to get on board to override the filibuster. So if the bipartisan bill fails, it is likely that they're already working on a reconciliation package now. We've also heard that there might be promises made that if progressive Democratic senators vote for the bipartisan bill, only if the moderate Democratic senators promise to also vote for a reconciliation package on top of this. So I don't know why the Republicans would then vote for it, but it is possible that we might have both. So if the bipartisan bill succeeds, that is not the end of the road for us. We will continue to fight to get you money for infrastructure. And to do so, we have two bills that we're working on side by side, not in competition with each other, but just two ways to try to get some money for you. The first is our own standalone bill. This is called the Impact Aid Infrastructure Act. It is a one-time infusion of funds. We ask for $1 billion through the Impact Aid construction line. It broadens the eligibility for formula funding. It opens the military side of the funding up to any district currently receiving Department of Defense impact aid, and it keeps the Indian lands funding exactly as it is in the current law. It also broadens the eligibility for the competitive side of the program a little bit. We have introduced this bill. This is now the third Congress that we've introduced it in. It is bipartisan in the House and only Democrats in the Senate, as it has been last two Congresses. We have gotten a lot of really good positive feedback on this in both the House and the Senate. We are also supportive of a much larger bill called the Reopen and Rebuild America's Schools Act. This is a huge package that funds infrastructure projects for all public schools. But we are mostly excited about it because it includes $500 million for the impact aid construction line. We are working on the eligibility rules there to try to get them in line with the Impact Aid Infrastructure Act to make sure that we can get this to a broad swath of federally impacted school districts. So whether we get the full Reopen and Rebuild America's Schools Act or into some reconciliation package, or if that doesn't work, we hope that we still have gotten enough momentum behind our arguments to get our own funding into the bill. This is not the first time it's happened. Actually, over 10 years ago in the 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, ARA, the stimulus package from the 2008 recession, Impact Aid got $100 million for the school construction program. So there is, this has happened in the past, and this is something that we hope will happen this year. The next one, we actually have exciting news that we cannot say too openly, but since it's a small group here, we can say to you guys, we are working on a bill that we're calling the Advancing Towards Full Funding Act. Like Anne said earlier, Impact Aid is extremely underfunded, as I'm sure you all know working in the districts. It has been underfunded since 1969, so this is more than 50 years that your districts have not gotten the funding that they should be getting. So NAFIS is working to introduce legislation that would fully fund the basic support part of the program, provide a proportional increase to the federal property part of the program, and increase the children with disability payments to about $2,000 a kid or $1,000 for an off-base military student. So that's almost doubling what you're getting now for each of your children with disabilities. The bill as written would give us a 5-year glide path to this. It is not guaranteed money. It is more a messaging bill. It's our way of telling Congress that this is our priority and getting members of Congress to sign on and say, hey, colleagues, we think this is a priority. So we're hoping that this is a really good way to position us to start getting some real increases in the appropriations process. The exciting news that we have now is that it will be introduced most likely this July in the House and the Senate. And in the House, we got it to be bipartisan. So we finally got a Republican to sign on today. We are very excited about that. And so we are working with the offices now to get it introduced before the August recess. So getting it introduced sometime in July. We will send out ways for you to advocate for this bill, both from home and if you are able to come to the conference in September. It'll be a really exciting time to be on the Hill, either virtually or not, but to be talking about this really exciting piece of legislation. So now turn it back to Nicole to tell you about broadband connectivity.
Thanks, Leslie. Yes, so I will briefly cover some funding that is available for broadband connectivity right now. So the application window for the temporary $7 billion in the Emergency Connectivity Fund will open June 29th and run through August 13th. This was a pot of money that was established through the American Rescue Plan. It uses the same processes and structures that are used in the E-rate programs for schools and libraries. And so beginning June 29th, eligible schools and libraries can submit requests for funding to purchase laptops and tablets, Wi-Fi hotspots, modems, routers, and broadband connections for off-campus use by students, school staff, and library patrons. So this application window is for prospective purchases only, but once this window closes, the FCC will consider whether to open another window. And this would potentially be for retroactive reimbursement. And let's see, the FCC has many informational webinars and resources available online. And you'll see that there are a couple of links here to access those. And so now is definitely the time to take action to see if these dollars would be available to your school district. And secondly, recently we heard that there is potential that there could be a bill introduced in the Senate to provide follow-on funding for this Emergency Connectivity Fund. This is new news. And so it is just in the beginning stages, but specifically, this bill would amend the existing American Rescue Plan Act to appropriate additional 5 years of funding with additional funding requested in each of those years. And so this would continue to provide schools and libraries homework gap support. And so this need for additional money is obvious. I'm sure, as you all know, working in the district, and no one wants to see student access cut off when the $7 billion runs out. And so this is hopefully on the track to be introduced in the Senate to provide a solution to follow that. And so that is a little bit on broadband. I will turn it to Lynn, who can provide some more information on some other NAFIS offerings.
Thanks, Nicole. As Nicole said, I'm Lynn Watkins. I'm the Director of Operations and Conference Services for NAFIS. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the brand new NAFIS Portal. Let me advance the slide here. Sorry about that. There we go. So NAFIS has launched, and we launched the portal in May, and it's hosted through Member Connections, which is our new association management system. It allows every school district to update their own contact information. You'll be you can easily assess your information online. You can access dues, invoices, you can submit POs, and so much more. On the staff side, on the NAFIS staff side, this allows us to centralize member information so we can work more efficiently for you. And how do you access this portal? You can access it by going to the NAFIS website at nafisdc.org. Click on the blue button that will say log in. It's in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to the NAFIS portal, the login screen. If you currently receive NAFIS newsletters, information alerts, you already actually have an account in the system. And to access your account, you enter your email address that you use for your NAFIS, to receive NAFIS information, and follow the, you click on the forgot password link, and you follow those instructions to access your account. Once you're on the login page, if you see the section that says My Organization in the left-hand column, that means you have admin permissions. That means that you're the driver of your district's information. So by clicking on the Manage Individuals in the admin section, you will see where you can add people from your school district. You can delete individuals if they've they've left the district, and you can add you can also add new employees and edit their information. And in doing so, you can also sign those individuals up to make sure that they receive the NAFIS newsletter. If you're not the organization admin, you'll see My Account on the left-hand side. That means you have access to your own individual information within the NAFIS system. So please take a moment to actually log on. It doesn't take that long. Set up your account. And once you do that, check to make sure that all your information is correct. So we have your up-to-date information and contact information for you and your school district. And the main reason for that is that all NAFIS invoices and newsletters and all the information coming out from NAFIS goes out by email. So if we don't have your correct email address, you are not getting the most up-to-date information. So please take a moment and set that up. And if you have any questions or you have issues logging on, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@nafisdc.org, or you can contact me directly at lynn@nafisdc.org. And I hope to see you guys logging in and updating your information. And with that, thank you for listening. And I'll turn it over to Hillary at this time. Thank you.
Hi, thanks everybody. This was a lot of really great information that you all shared. I wanted to close the webinar talking a little bit about the NAFIS conference. We are planning for an in-person return to the nation's capital. We are very excited to be welcoming back members of the NAFIS family. However, this year's conference is going to look and feel a little different than conferences in the past. I don't know if anybody who's listening has attended a conference previously. Due to the Hyatt corporate hotel social distancing requirements, we will have to limit the number of attendees at this fall conference. What that means, NAFIS staff is working to implement a way for school districts or entities that would be attending the NAFIS conference to register one individual. At this time, we are going to have to cap it as one individual because of the limitation of attendees. We hope that registration will be open in the next couple of weeks. In addition to having a smaller in-person presence, We will also have a virtual option. We will be we are working to be able to live stream our 2 general sessions, which are Sunday afternoon and Monday afternoon. Hill meetings. A lot of folks are asking, what will Hill meetings look like? Right now, we don't know if they'll be in person, they'll be virtual via Zoom or another virtual platform, or a combination of both. Each congressional office is making decisions individually as how they are addressing their constituent meetings. And come September, things may change different than the way things are now. So if you are thinking that you will be coming to DC as your district or entity's representative and would like to connect with your congressional staff or congressional members, we also do encourage you to reach out to the office to get a better understanding if they will be meeting in person or virtually. So that's the latest update on the conference. So why don't I leave it, if there's any questions or suggestions of things that NAFIS could be doing differently, we're happy to hear them. We know this is a small group, so if you would like to just speak up and introduce yourselves, we're welcome. You know, we'd love to hear your voice as well, so that it's not just our voices. Oh, Steve, you're not coming through well.
How's that? Any better?
Yep, we can hear you now well. Thank you.
Good. So Steve Townsend, I'm currently active duty Army on a unique assignment with the Department of Education. Been working closely with the military affairs team and OCO throughout. So I just joined in to listen to what you guys are doing and really to thank you all for the advocating you do on behalf of, you know, the military families amongst all the other federal employees as well. So great to hear all the information you guys are doing. I appreciate it very much.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for those kind words. And on behalf of all of our school districts, you know, they very much value the impaction that is around their school districts, whether it's a civilian impaction, Indian Trust Treaty, Alaska Native Claims Acts, military installations. That really makes our school districts special, and the leaders at these school districts very much value that uniqueness of their school districts. So thank you, and thank you for your service in the Army.
Thanks.
We also very much appreciate everything that the department is already doing for us. So thank you for your work there as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, as Leslie mentioned, we have a very strong working relationship with the Department of Education, and specific also not the higher levels of the leadership as well as the Impact Aid Office.
Yeah, I like working with that Impact Aid Office team. They're a good crew down there.
Yep. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, well, with that, we will close up the webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for joining us. And please keep in touch. Bye-bye.